My name is Yeonmi Park. I was born in North Korea. I escaped when I was 13 years old. I escaped North Korea in 2007 and I lived as an illegal immigrant in China more than a year. After my father passed away in China, my mother and I decided to escape to Mongolia.
North Koreans are being terrorized today. We aren't free to sing, say, wear, or think what we want.
I really thought like Kim Jong-un can read my mind. And I thought like if I think about bad things, he's gonna kill me because he can read my thoughts.
No humans deserve to be oppressed just because of their birthplace.
They don't even know they have rights to be alive and to be happy. And I think that moment I really totally just lost my faith in humanity. I didn't know the concept. I never heard about the word freedom. To me was the happiest thing to me was having food. And that moment I thought we had to escape. There is no way we can survive in this country. We walked and crossed the Gobi Desert in the freezing winter night. And we followed the compass. And then later we couldn't use compass, so we followed the stars north into freedom. There are two things that I'm really grateful for to the world. The first thing was that I was born in North Korea and I escaped. And I've never tried this my experience to a normal life.
Good evening. I first would like to ask for your forgiveness. I'd ask you to please indulge me. I'd actually had prepared some remarks for this evening, but on reflection, they are simply insufficient for me to introduce Park Yeonmi, or as we know her, Yeonmi Park. Yeonmi Park was born into a life of starvation, sadness, hunger, a level of difficulty that is unimaginable to everyone in this room. Her life began to change when she was exposed to foreign media that had been smuggled into North Korea. At the age of 13, with her mother, they decided that they were going to give a try to a life somewhere else, a life in freedom, a life in a country that they could see, and they could see the lights in that country, and they wanted to experience what it was like to be in a place where you could actually have food. Yeonmi grew up eating insects. Some summers when there was simply no food, bark and grass was what she had to eat. So they put all of their resources together and they paid human traffickers to take them out of North Korea and into China. In China, they were separated. They didn't get to freedom. And I would break down sobbing if I was to describe to you the horrifying experiences that she lived through in China. Of course, they couldn't go back to North Korea because if you actually are caught in China by the police, they sell you back to the North Koreans in exchange for timber. And in North Korea, you will be sent to a concentration camp where you will be worked to death. You will probably live between 5 and 10 more years before you die. And so she remained in China without her mother. If you take a look at Yeonmi Park in her 100 pounds and 5'3", you may actually be forgiven for thinking that Yeonmi is a weak person or she's frail. In fact, there is nothing frail or weak about Yeonmi Park. She found her mother, and together with a group of people, they walked the entire Gobi Desert with razors hidden in their clothing. If they were to be caught, they had agreed that they would kill themselves because they certainly did not want to return either to what they were living through in China or in North Korea. And so this 13-year-old woman with an unbreakable will makes it to Mongolia, where As they learned there, every North Korean is automatically a citizen of South Korea. The South Korean government asked for them to be brought to South Korea. And in South Korea, she was not content to just live a life in freedom. No, she was determined to tell her story, and she was determined that the world know what women go through in China and what life is like in North Korea. And so it starts with understanding that in order to tell her story, she had to learn English. And if you have had the privilege of meeting North Korean defectors, there's something about Yeonmi Park in the way that she's different from all North Korean defectors, in that her English is remarkably better than most North Korean defectors. The reason for this is because it was not enough for her to just learn English. This is a woman so determined that she wanted to learn English with a proper accent. So she watched in South Korea every episode of Friends 10 times. Or as she likes to tell me, take me to any quiz on Friends and I will win the prize. Yeonmi Park, as she was learning English, she was also doing something else. And again, many of you understand that the struggle for human rights in the world is truly a struggle between the biggest of all governments, a totalitarian police state, and a free or limited government, as we have been able to have in a handful of countries since the 18th century. She didn't just learn English. She read Bastiat. She read Friedman. She read von Mises. And so I think with that, and without going into further detail, I was, however, astonished at the level of ignorance that I've heard this evening from some folks on North Korea. And I would encourage you, the best way to understand the circumstances in a country is to learn the narrative of one single person. If you can, get her book. She's now a best-selling author in 32 languages. Her book is called In Order to Live. And it is a remarkable story. And it's a story of how she was unwilling to allow death and destruction dominion over her life and her liberty. And so with that, please rise and let's celebrate Yeonmi Park.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can all see me, since I'm very short and tiny. I blame North Korea to be this short. I always believe I'd become a model if I was born in America. I was very glad when we started the course. It was salad. Now I thought like, oh, I guess I'm American now. Because when I was in North Korea, salad was not something, it was a plant that I was feeding my rabbits. It was like rabbit's food. And when I came to the West, I was really offended. Why would they eat rabbit's food? It's so expensive. But I'm eating rabbit's food now. So that's how I know I'm adjusted to this country. Thank you. I really try not to become emotional because I really love my brother, Thor Halverson, because after I've been escaped, I felt like I would live 1,000 years. The hardest thing for me to overcome after get out from North Korea was that not learning about internet or smartphone or reading books. It was about trusting humanity again. When I escaped to China, the first thing that I saw was my mother raped. And in North Korea, we don't have sex education. so I did not know what kiss was. After she got raped, we found out that we had to be sold to live in China. China had one-child policy, and they did not keep enough girls, so there were not enough women could be married. So in the countryside, men with mental problem or physical issues, they cannot find the wives. So my mother was being sold for $65, and I was sold for over $200. I was more expensive than her because I was virgin and I was young because I was 13. I completely lost my faith. I lived with a man who bombed me, and I wanted to kill myself. And he told me that if I become his mistress, he could buy my mother bag and could bring my father to me. So I had to become his mistress, and I had to become adult. He did keep his promises. He brought my mother to me, and he did bring my father to me. It was during the time of Beijing Olympic in 2008. My father was around 45 years old. Now thinking that I never realized how young he was. He'd been tortured so much in prison camp in North Korea, so he got the colon cancer. In China, we don't have ID, so we could not go to hospital to treat him. So he had to just die. Until he was dying, he told me that you have to one thing promise me, that you are never going to kill yourself. Because he told me life is a gift, that I should never give up, because I tried to kill myself in front of him a few times. In North Korea, people die usually before 60 years old. We think of somebody who's in 50s, we think of them as grandpa and grandma, because no one lives that for long. We don't have enough things to eat. It breaks my heart that in the West, news is all about the politics. Even if you turn on CNN right now, news is about Kim Jong-un and politics. They talk about Kim Jong-un's haircut. They talk about how ridiculous his look is. And it's a very funny joke to Westerners. But North Korea is not about Kim Jong-un. It is not about nuclear weapon. It is about people like me, my mother, my father. There are more than 20 million people living there, not knowing that Americans are this great. I went to school in North Korea, but I'm never allowed to call you guys Americans. I had to call you all American bastards. It's like in math problem in North Korea, they call that there are 4 American bastards, and you kill 2 of them, there are how many American bastards left to kill? Then I say 2 American bastards. That's why getting the information is so important. They don't know how diverse America is. They don't know that people here care about their rights and their liberty. Because of the people like Thor Harrison, my brother, and David, and like all of you, even though you have everything, even you have your own liberty, but you still care for the people who don't. Sometimes I feel very guilty because I know how much the meal that we just have cost. I know how much the hotel that I stayed last night cost. But at this point, in this night, when we have this gala, when the news talk about the politics, there are girls I sold for $100, $200. And I don't know, maybe justice or life in this room and in this country, but it is not to North Koreans. So I'm very grateful David and Mary brought me here, even though I don't speak good English. I'm in college right now, learning about demand and supply graph. What an honor for me to be the Nobel Lottery economist. Life is a miracle that I saw that anything is possible in North Korea. And that's what I believe, that North Koreans will become free. And I really hope all of us have answered that day when they ask us, what have you done? Why we didn't have freedom and why we are starving to death? So thank you so much, everyone. I'm so sorry I made your night so dark. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you so much.